You can see lots and lots and lots of kids that we get to honor. Parents, we thank you for coming out, supporting your kids. We truly want to express what an honor it is to work with and serve your kids. This is one of those opportunities where we get to say thank you to them for what they bring to us and the inspiration that they are to us every single day. So I heard it best really and truly on the way over here. One of the teachers was talking to one of the students and they said, you know, I just want to thank you because this is one of those opportunities where I get to say thank you for inspiring me to do what I do every day. And so if you weren't sure what this award is, that's what it is. Each staff member has selected someone that really serves as that inspiration to do what they do. So whether it's a secretary, whether it is an administrator, whether it's a teacher, all of us have selected those students to us that have made an impact on us. And so the idea of a beacon award, that beacon of light, thinking about, you know, something that stands out in such a positive way and that it just takes such a tiny bit of light in the darkness to really shine brightly. And so we just want to thank you for coming out and just know the profound impact that your children have made upon us. We're about to introduce a video, or show you a video rather, that can kind of give you some behind the scenes about what this whole process was. And after that, we're going to have an opportunity for some of our staff members to speak on that, as well as some of our students. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and show the video that our RCTV crew put together related to the Beacon Awards.
Well, oh God, I might cry myself.
Don't do that.
When you were a little freshman on the first day of high school and you came in my class, you were smiling, and I thought, I'm really gonna like this little girl. Here we are, what, 2.5 years later?
So Lucy, I picked you as my Beacon Award recipient this year because number one, I've had you for 3 years and you've just done an awesome job every year. You work hard and you do everything I ask you to do, and you have such a sweet disposition, and I love your character.
Quentin, I wanted to give this to you. It is the Bulldog Beacon Award, and I chose you because you've been my library aide for 2 years, and you're a wonderful person.
Alexa, this year we are doing the Bulldog Beacon Awards. I get a little emotional. And what we were told to do is to pick a student that we felt mattered.
And I had the pleasure of teaching you in class for 2 years, and I've kept up with you this year. And I would like to ask you and invite you if you would be my Beacon Award student, because you've been a beacon to me. And Zelie, you matter.
Thank you. Don't do that anymore.
I can't.
I can rely on you. I can, you know, when you're manning the desk, I don't have to worry about anything. You're smart, you're conscientious, you're responsible, you're cheerful.
And this year I have chosen you for my recipient because ever since your freshman year, you have overcome obstacles, you work hard, you have your goals set on what you're going to do, and you don't let anything keep you from obtaining those goals.
And you're my student. Sorry. You're always smiling, always a sweet girl. You're always on top of your work. You go above and beyond on everything you do. And I'm really proud of you as a student, and I'm really proud of all that you accomplish.
And from the 9th grade, from when you were 14 years old, it's been a big, big change in you. And I'm just really proud, and couldn't be prouder of you, and just really appreciate all your hard work that you do for me in class.
The things that you do behind the scenes, there are a lot of things that you've been able to have your hands on that have impacted so many kids here, and they don't even necessarily realize it.
Because you have always had God in your life, and you still do. And you make me strong by your faith, with your faith. And that's one of the reasons why I have picked you to be the Beacon. Oh, yeah, the Beacon Award. And I chose you. Oh, because you matter.
No, you matter more.
Quentin, you matter.
And I'm proud to say you're my Bulldog Beacon. So.
Thank you. Can I give her a hug? Is that loud?
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Holiday. Thank you to the choir. That was awesome. Very much appreciate it. At this time, our first staff speaker is going to be our head girls basketball coach and athletic director, Dallas Bookout. He's going to come up and speak on his Beacon student.
Thank you. I think you just sit there. You're fine. But they asked me to come speak today on the Beacon Awards, and I was more than happy to do so. First, I'd like to just say a little bit about the awards. I don't think this was part of it, but Craig Bowers was a really close friend of mine. He's a great man, and I'm proud to be a part of this. I think he'd be very proud to have his name associated with it. He was all about honoring students and doing what's best for everybody. So I'm just really happy that we're able to honor him in this way with an award like this. And I think everybody should kind of be thankful of that. And I'm just thinking of him throughout this time. But my award winner, the student that I chose was McKayla Travers. McKayla's right here. You stand up and get some applause there. You're good. McKayla's really special to me. She's a sophomore, one of our athletes. She's went through a lot of tragedy over the last year, I'd have to say, just some personal tragedy with her family, and it's been very inspirational to me with how she's handled that, and without even knowing it, I'm sure that she's handled it as well as she has, and just comes to school every day with a great attitude, works out as hard or harder than anybody we have, just a really good athlete. But just pushes herself each and every day to be the best that she can be, and pushes others too. And I don't think she really realizes that she really pushes other people to be better. And to me, that's one of the most important things you can do as an athlete. Not only push yourself, but make other people better. There's too much me in sports and all that nowadays. And McKayla's just about the team and about what makes everybody better. And I see that every day in how she works out. I went out and coached track some this year and had her after school, and she works as hard as any kid I've ever had, and I really appreciate that as a coach. But it's more than that. It's what kind of kid she is. Every day in the hallways, every day that I see her, every day that a teacher says something to me about her, how one of our athletes, and it's McKayla's name some of the times coming in there, that she's just this great kid that always does everything she's asked to do, and it doesn't surprise me at all because that's what she does for us each and every day. So I'm just proud of her, and probably the biggest compliment I could give her or any of the kids is that if she was my kid, I'd be super proud that she was my kid. I think I did my job. And if my daughter turns out to be like her, I'll be an extremely happy parent. So thank you very much.
Oh my, well, I can't even express how much it means to me that he selected me. It still blows my mind that he did, but in just these 2 years that I've met Coach Bookout, he's made me a better athlete. And I mean, just in these past 4 or 5 last weeks of track, he's made me try new things that I would have never been up to before. And I wouldn't be running 3 events on Friday if it wasn't for him. And he's made me a better person on top of all that. And he's the closest thing I have to a father figure in my life, and that means a whole lot more to me than the rest of it. And I can't even put it to words, but thank you.
We're now going to have Mr. Matthew Stewart, our speech and debate coach, come up and speak on his Beacon student and give him the opportunity to introduce her as well.
Well, hello. So before I give my speech, I suppose really quickly I'd like to give thanks to the Beacon Committee, Mr. Worthy for being here, and Mr. Isaac Holiday for having the choir here, Dr. Walker as well. These awards, hold on, let me work on this microphone thing here. All right. This award means a lot, especially coming from my perspective, which is something I want to do today, is explain that to you. More importantly, you finally got the speech and debate coach to come up and give a speech. So it's kind of time for me to put my salary where my mouth is, literally talk the talk, if you will. For the record, for my debaters in the audience, I'm not using a note card. We don't do that. But what I want to do today is kind of explain how I approach this award personally, and then explain to you why I think Aaliyah Pichon is everything in regards to that award and what it should represent. And so the first thing I need to explain is that teaching is hard. Most teachers tell you that your third year of teaching is really difficult. That's when it becomes more prone to burnout. There are statistics that say that 41% of teachers will quit within 5 years. Even more so, 40% of teachers will quit after their first year. And I was part of that statistic. I remember the date specifically. It was November 9th this year. I remember coming home to my wife. Y'all, I'm trying to get real here. I remember coming home to my wife and crying because I didn't know if I was going to keep doing what I was doing. I didn't have the same motivation, the same drive that I experienced 2 years prior. And I teach in a field that's kind of fading away. We talk about speech, we talk about communications, and we're always trying to find ways to implement that in other areas, which is excellent. But there's a lot of things you can't teach in a speech and debate classroom that you need to have. And so the question we're always faced with is, why do we need to speak? Why should we be motivated to speak? I mean, even right now, the most common fear amongst all people is speaking. People would rather die than speak. There are people here in this room that would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy. So it's important to understand that we need to speak. We need to have our advocacy. We need to have our agency. And that's something I struggle with, trying to convey that to people and how important it actually is. And honestly, people will say that, students talk enough as is. And sure enough, if you go to any high school classroom, you'll find inevitably that is true. As a matter of fact, some students speak a lot more than they probably should on a regular basis. But we should encourage that. Silence is the death of ideas. A closed mind is ooh, look at that, gaffe. A closed mouth precedes a closed mind, and a closed mind is the most dangerous thing in our society. The goal of speech and debate is to teach children to accept their own agency, to make their own choices, to make their own decisions, to understand that as high school students, they are going out into a world where they face complicated and nuanced issues. So when we face questions of what do we care about United States domestic surveillance policy, or even how does standardized testing impact us in our daily lives? And I meet with responses with, I don't understand how that impacts my life. It's a challenge, especially because I remember when I was younger taking the TOS and TEKS tests that I had quite a bit to say about being locked in a room for 8 hours. So it becomes difficult. You look for students that drive you and push you to be better than what you are. And you attach yourself to those students. And I think Coach Bookout could agree with me as well, that after the course of time of working directly with these students over the course of several years, you form a bond. And as those students leave, you're constantly looking to fill that gap. And so for me this year, I've been trying to find that motivation, what I had at the start, that drive that I needed. I'd rework lesson plans. I'd reapproach different content ideas. I'd try to flip up the classroom and make things going. I would mentally break myself trying to keep this process going. And it was when I was at my darkest that I was able to watch Aaliyah ignite as a debater. Aaliyah Pichon is quite simply the most interesting person I've ever had the chance to interact with in my teaching career. She's extremely intelligent, really sharp. She doesn't have a lot of time for being goofy, which kind of stacked the deck against me from the start, I think, because I'm me. And I always knew that she had a critical mind. She understood things. The first time I understood that was when she questioned my use of PowerPoints when I was explaining policy debate to her, as it wasn't necessarily the best method to convey that information. So I already knew that I had somebody coming at me pretty consistently on a daily basis. But I knew that there was potential and she could be a great student. The strength we have as teachers is that we understand and appreciate potential in every student that comes into our classroom. And we work tirelessly and often on blind faith that those students will see what we see, and they'll understand that they can be great people and go off and do great things. And I got lucky. I constantly wanted Leah to show up to practice. It wasn't until one of my other debaters actually told her that she needed to be there that, oddly enough, she showed up. And so it became one practice, and then it became another practice. And then we kind of tricked her into going into a tournament, and that worked out. She did really well, and then it was more practices. And sure enough, now I have a student waiting outside my door every morning as I arrive, which is wonderful. That didn't work out too long, because it turns out when you drive 67 miles down and back to get to school, you're not necessarily consistent on time. But it was great to have her there to kind of start off my morning and keep me going. So in regards to how important Aaliyah's been to me, Aaliyah helped me find the love for my subject again. If Aaliyah hadn't shown up at those practices, if she hadn't started showing up in the morning to greet me so we can catch up every morning, I probably wouldn't be here. And it's for that that I thank you, Leah, because it's been exceedingly important to me, and there's no way I can really repay that to you. When we talk about this award, there's a lot of different perspectives on how we approach the Beacon Award itself. I've heard people say varying things. I've heard some people mention that it's a pity award and that it's not actually worth something. And I think that comes from a place of malice, and it's a very fundamental misunderstanding of what the intent of this award is. When we talk about exceptional students, we become very focused on direct merit, test scores, GPA, extracurricular participation, and we often conflate those with the things that you don't necessarily measure, and that's kindness, advocacies, understanding. And this award is a representation of that. This award represents the fact that not all students are just test scores and data that we look at. This award acknowledges that all students do matter, and oftentimes in ways that we don't necessarily talk about, but we need to. And more importantly, this award represents the fact that even when your candle is at its dimmest, when you feel like you're in the dark, there's always a light if you look for it. Thank you.
Okay. Do you ever see a couple together and think that I would have never put those two together? Kind of like Beyonce and Jay-Z? Well, that's how I felt about this award. I didn't really know much about it at first, except for that teachers nominate inspirational students, and automatically I thought, well, congratulations to whoever gets that, because it's not going to be me. Not necessarily because I thought of myself in a bad way, but I just thought of myself as pretty normal, you know. I wake up, go to school, come home, and do the same thing over and over again. I mean, sometimes weird stuff happens in between, but for the most part, I'm pretty normal. So I guess you could say I was shocked when I got this award, especially coming from Mr. Stewart, because we didn't get off to the best start with me in his class. I used to fall asleep sometimes, and when I wasn't sleeping, I would judge his PowerPoints. And even now, I know I still stress him out because I'm almost failing geometry, and I constantly tell him I'm gonna drop his class. But honestly, even though he kind of throws me into random competitions, I feel like we're kind of even, and at the end of the day, he's still pretty cool, and he's my favorite person. I say he's my favorite person because I think, although most of you may see Mr. Stewart as just another teacher in this school, I think of him as more than just a teacher. I know our saying this year is "You Matter," and Mr. Stewart is one of the teachers that I've had who have really been able to represent this without trying to overplay it in a sense. He not only urges me, but all of his students to have unique, independent voices. Most of people may think that's his job, but his job is to teach us about different forms of debate, and he goes beyond that. He allows us to use and voice our opinions on whatever we are passionate about, and that's something you don't get to do often in school. For example, earlier this year, I had a competition, and I debated competitive eating as a public health concern. I lost all 3 rounds that day, but I enjoyed every second of it because it was my opinions that were being heard. Many kids don't think debate is anything more than a speech credit, and they would probably be right if they didn't have Mr. Stewart as a teacher. His class is a place where you can actually be heard and feel like what you say matters. He somehow finds a way to get our class discussing real-world problems instead of just what's in textbooks, and that's nothing to do with his job description. That's him as a teacher. I know a lot of kids don't really take his class seriously, but I know each kid that walks through his classroom doors is gonna leave knowing something. It wasn't until I was writing this speech that I realized I kinda look up to Mr. Stewart. And I don't know about you, but when I look up to someone, I kinda try to be like them. And that's when all the pieces came together of how I was able to get this award. Mr. Stewart is such an inspirational person and teacher, I guess it kind of rubbed off on me. Freshman year can be so rough, and knowing that I have a limited amount of faith in me from one person on campus makes everything a lot easier. And he makes me want to be more than just your average high school student. So thanks, Mr. Stewart.
Thank you. Those were very touching. I now have the privilege to present the 2016 recipients of the Bowers Beacon Award. Please hold your applause until all the names have been called. Students, when your name is called, briefly stand up. Are we ready? Okay. Kalina Amos. Heather Armstrong. Zach Arrington. Mattie Atkins. Arianna Bankston. Connor Barham. Phillip Barron. Caroline Bell. Maddie Berry. John Biffer. Katie Bing. Micaiah Brown. Annabel Buchanan. Kelsey Buis. Ethan Burkhart. Rainey Burton. Avery Cain. Mark Calloway. Sarah Carlson. Maria Cavazos. Alfredo Cervantes. Rachel Cody. Nya Coleman. Danovan Collins. Kinley Crow. Chance Dameron. Carlton Davis. Monica Dunn. Mary Edwards. Jasmine Escobedo. Caleb Fay. Anthony Garcia. Damon Garman. Oh, I forgot. I'm sorry. I forgot. Jenna Glish. I apologize. I'm like, that's not Damon. Okay. Jenna Glish. I apologize, Jenna. Damon Garman. Okay. Neil Garana. Cooper Gilliland. Shea Goodson. Audrey Green. Lexis Greshaw. Collin Hallett. Madison Hanson. Kaylee Harrelson. Lexi Hartnett. Victoria Hayes. Alexsa Hernandez. Karla Hernandez. Macy Huff. Kayla Hudson. Claire Enderfirth. Patrick Irby. Kaitlyn Johnson. Kyle Johnson. Robyn Jones. Zinnia Jones. Taylor Jordan. Frazier Jordan. Kaylie Kirk. Hope Laster. Joseph Lay. Jayden Lee. Kane Lopez. Zach Maley. Judith Mancia. Jimena Martinez. Mateo Matamoros. Michaela Maxey. Michael McKinney. Samantha Medders. Anna Myers. Mackenzie Mitchum. Victoria Moreno. Quentin Morrow. Emily Nahara. Kaylee Newman. Tram Wynn. Emily Nolan. Lucy Olivo. DK Otis. Bayley Owen. Kayla Padilla. Jacob Parsons. Jose Perez Vela. Sarah Person. Aaliyah Pichon. Elena Portillo. Madison Potosky. Brennan Reimer. Cierra Richardson. Cierra Richardson. Carlie Robertson. Marcella Robinson. Olivia Blanca Rodriguez Rosas. Alex Roman. Adryan Rose. Kayla Rosso. Lexi Ruff. Cindy Salazar Muniz. Emily Sanders. Masana Scherer. Ryan Schneider, Trent Shearman, Victoria Shue, Celie Summers, Taylor Sutton, Grace Tallwater, McKayla Tharp, Michaela Travers, Marco Trejo, Sheridan Treddy, Arianna Bankston, Cortland Vance, Brian Voss, Marcos Vega, Rocio Vega Martinez, Austin Werner, Jamie Williams, and Paige Williamson. Let's give these students a round of applause for a job well done. Now we would like to present the first ever Bauer Beacon Award lapel pins. Staff, if you will take the pins out of your envelope at this time, please. Students and staff, please rise, and staff, please present the pin to your Beacon student. Okay, thank you. If you go ahead and take your seats, please. Once again, thank you so much for this and for all the good things you do. And now we have some closing remarks from our superintendent, Mr. Worthy.
Wow. What a wonderful opportunity and way to recognize our students, but most of all our teachers and our hardworking high school staff. Before I close, let's just give a special thank you to Gina Franklin and all that she has done, and Dr. Walker, Dallas Bookout, Cindy Clark, Jolynn Harper, Ashley Jones, Christy Watts, and Steve Vaughn for all their work in organizing and getting all this together. So we appreciate it very much. And I know those guys would not want me to leave out the special thank you to RCTV, the Culinary Arts Program, the National Honor Society, the Curriculum Department, Colton Rogers. We're going to hire Colton. Is Colton in the house? We're going to hire him for next year. And the Shop Designs of Greenville, Texas. We appreciate all their support and work to make this event special. Thank you. We were talking the other day in the office, and it's just really hard to believe that it's almost May. And it feels like yesterday that I stood up here and we talked about convocation. We talked to our staff and our entire district about an initiative that we felt was important, and that was recognizing all individuals in our organization and let them know that they matter. And I think this is a great opportunity not only to let our students know that they matter, But I think our students kind of flipped it today. I think they let our staff know that they truly matter. And so this is a wonderful opportunity, and I look forward for many years to come where we recognize our students, but we also recognize our staff and validate the reasons why we do what we do. You know, we talk a lot about the what and the how and the why. And many organizations, they don't know why they do what they do. Well, it's pretty simple for us. It's validated today. Parents, grandparents, thank you so much for all your support of Royse City ISD and the support of our staff and our students. We appreciate you coming tonight. We appreciate our board members that are present, and just thank you for the opportunity to educate your children. Thank you for the opportunity to recognize their excellence. Thank you.
Thank you again, and there are refreshments in the foyer and plenty of picture opportunities, so go have some refreshments. Thank you for coming.